In this part of our story, we see the war. Zeus and Kronos go at each other. It's a 10-year battle that the stakes of the universe are up for grabs in their conflict. Just before we detoured into the story of humans and that episode on at Mycenae, we have a mention. Remember that he just tells us, just in a few sentences there, that at a certain point, Earth tricks Kronos into vomiting back up his children, and Zeus is involved. Zeus allies with the Cyclopses, and he gets the Thunderbolt so that he can rule the cosmos. That happens on page 18. Hesiod is here looking forward to the very end of the story where Zeus is going to be in control of everything. There we then jump right into Zeus already being in control, the later period, and we've got humans and this episode of Mycenae. Then at the end of that, we jump back to witness this 10-year battle between Zeus and Kronos. The battle is nasty and deeply violent. The Thunderbolt is not a gentle weapon. Now, Zeus gets these weapons by means of persuasion. He frees the Cyclopses from their nasty place under the earth. This is where the Titans had kept them, not showing them proper deference. Zeus was used as a way to try to persuade the Cyclopses. And if he would go ahead and free them. And after he did, he was friended by them, and they gave him his Thunderbolt. Now, with that Thunderbolt, Zeus can rule the cosmos. It is the nuclear weapon of its day. It's enough to annihilate whatever is in opposition. Now, with the Thunderbolt, he crushes the Titans, and the Titans have a terrible, terrible time. They wind up down in nasty Tartarus. Zeus has them chained down there to the very bottom of the Tartarus. They're living at the utter far edges of the underneath part of the cosmos. This war is nasty, it's awful. Zeus wins by means of this Thunderbolt. He also wins by means of making alliances. He gets these 100-handers on his side. These are like the huge tanks of the day. 3 of them he talks over to coming to his side. They also were offspring of the Titans that were not treated well by the Titans. So there's a pattern developing in both the Cyclopses and the 100-handers. The Titans don't treat their subordinates well. Zeus then sees an opportunity, jumps in, starts to be kind to them, and pulls them over to his side. Using persuasion now, he gets this excessive violence, his Thunderbolt, and also the 100-handers. And with the scenes are especially pungent, with the 100-handers ripping off hunks of mountain and throwing all 3 of them 100 boulders at a time at the Titans. They can't withstand the onslaught. Now, at the end of a huge war like this, there's not going to be killing. These are all immortal principles. Zeus, though, is now in a dominant position, so he is able to restrain and bind the Titans down in the misty reaches of Tartarus. This conflagration is so nasty as it's unfolding. We hear from the chasm. So the chasm is a principle that has been around, of course, but we know it from the very beginning, but we don't hear so much about it. But when this war is at stake, the earth is shaken to such a degree that we hear that even the chasm is shaking. This is a war that shakes the universe down to its fundamental pieces. Zeus wins, and it's final. There's going to be a later challenge to Zeus in this period, in this episode involving this monster Typhoeus, but Zeus is going to win that one too. This reinforces an idea that while in a previous generation younger ones came up and overthrew the older ones, Zeus's win is going to be final. There is this coda afterwards with Typhoeus, but since Zeus overcomes Typhoeus, Zeus is no longer going to be vulnerable to younger generations coming and overthrow him. It's not going to happen to him. He dispatches the younger creature and tosses him into Tartarus. So now Zeus is forever going to be top dog of the universe. With Zeus's victory, the gods at Earth's prompting make him king. So he now has his place. He's earned it through struggle. He is now top creature in the universe, and he's solidified himself. During this war, we get some details about this cosmological structure. As I said, it shakes this cosmology to its fundaments, and in so doing, we get a kind of look back at how the whole thing is ordered. This is also timed with Zeus's victory over the Titans. So it's as though the cosmos is achieving order as Hesiod is articulating it, in a similar kind of pace to Zeus defeating the Titans. So Zeus's defeating the Titans is absolutely parallel to the cosmos achieving its order. We learn about Tartarus. It's this place way down below. Earth is a place in the middle, and the heavens are a place way up above. In fact, Hesiod gives us a way of thinking about how these connections are made. The heavens are so far above the earth that if you dropped a bronze anvil for 9 days, it fell. On the 10th, it would hit the earth. And the Tartarus is so below the earth that if you dropped a bronze anvil from the level of earth for 9 days, on the 10th, it would hit the bottom of Tartarus. We're dealing with huge expanses in Hesiod's imagination, such that it can be only described in these grand and grandiose ways. We also hear of the principle of the Styx, the river Styx, which runs through Tartarus and is the body of water on which even the gods are able to take an oath. An oath is something that you can swear, but you have to swear on some punishment. Oftentimes that punishment could be death. For the gods, there's not going to be death. They swear an oath on Styx. The Styx is so powerful and mighty and holy in their own minds. They're in awe of it that Hesiod gives a very detailed punishment. A god is in a coma for many years if it violates an oath on Styx. It's not going to die, but it has a horrible, horrible punishment. We also hear about the ocean. This is a river that circles the earth, out of which all the waters come, and out of which a kind of principle of coursing energy is present in the cosmos. Now, when Zeus overcomes the Titans, yes, he's achieved his position as the highest in the ordering hierarchy of the universe, so an order has been established. There's a strong acknowledgement of that order from all of his peers. There's also, interestingly, in this part of the epic, a handover of the powers of reproduction. And that's something we're going to turn to in this next segment. Using a tool that we developed at the University of Pennsylvania, we can actually visualize how Zeus appropriates this power of reproduction and how fully it moves over into his purview. At the very beginning of our story, we'll remember that Gaia was the one who mainly was the reproducer. We see here all of her offspring connected to her by blue lines, and her consorts are connected to her by green or red lines. These are the creatures that are connected to Gaia. You can see she's powerful and reproductive. She has lots of creatures connected to her. Now, we might think that lots of these other creatures surely must have given birth to other things too. Let's look, for example, at Themis. Well, sure, there's some offspring involved, and there are some consorts that she has, but not nearly as much as Gaia. Going back again, we can get ourselves back up to Gaia and see other of her offspring and say, well, surely maybe Theia had a lot of offspring. Well, not quite so much. Back to Gaia, have a look at Rhea, an important principle that comes from her. Well, again, not so much. Now, the generations that follow Earth mostly have reproductive trees that look like that. Under 10, under a dozen offspring for each of them. But when we move on to Zeus, something quite different happens. Tracing out the lineage that brings us from Gaia to Rhea, and then having a look at what happens with Zeus, we enter into a new level of reproductivity. Zeus is an extremely powerful reproducer. Some of these creatures he produces all on his own. Lots of them he produces by sexual relations with other divinities. He becomes the most important node of reproduction in this ancient scheme. And in doing so, the only principle that could rival his position earlier on is Gaia. So in doing this, he takes over the power of principal reproducer from Gaia. So now Zeus is top dog in the universe in lots of different ways, and not least because he's now at the center of the genealogical chart. How is it that Zeus appropriates this power of reproduction? How does he get it for himself? Well, there's a long string of events that unfolds as the story closes. You recall near the very end, Zeus has a sexual relationship with a goddess called Metis. When he does, she becomes pregnant. Now, before she gives birth, he swallows her down, seeming to do something as awful as Kronos does. He never receives any nasty interpretation of, there's never a nasty interpretation of this in the tradition. Instead, what people thought when they looked at Zeus swallowing Metis was they looked to her name. Her name means practical wisdom. So when Zeus swallows Metis, what he's doing is internalizing practical wisdom, according to the ancient reading of it. So Zeus here successfully appropriates the power of reproduction by following the scheme of internalizing practical wisdom. When he does, look what happens. He becomes reproductive himself. The first thing that comes out of the offspring from Metis, remember, she's gotten pregnant beforehand, he's ingested her. She then gives birth, presumably inside of him, out of her own womb. Then he gives birth again out of himself, out of his head, and out pops Athena. So Zeus appropriates the power of reproduction by assimilating practical wisdom inside of him, and so he now starts to be able to reproduce on his own. Great power all of a sudden gets moved over to Zeus. Harkening back to the gender politics that's involved in Hesiod's story, it's very clear, I think, in Hesiod's story that males should have the power of reproduction for the universe to work right. Hesiod must have been a little sad that never quite worked out, but in his mind, that clearly seems to be the way that things that should go. When Zeus becomes the leader of the universe and establishes order, that move is paralleled with his appropriation for males of the female power of reproduction. All of this gives us a chance to look back on the pivotal role that this figure Earth has played in the story. She has a female principle and as the prior most productive entity in the universe, has an important role in all aspects of this rise to power of Zeus. She's sometimes on his side, sometimes not on his side. She's moving things along in an interesting backdoor kind of way. Remember at the very beginning, she's a primal deity. She is there before creation itself. She's just around. She also is involved in the castration of the sky. She wants that to happen. So she disempowers her own husband and that generation, her own generation on page 8, handing over power to her younger son. Then she warns Kronos, page 17, that one of his offspring is going to overthrow him. But that doesn't stop her from also helping Zeus. She goes over and schemes with Rhea on page 17 to make sure that Kronos swallows down a stone and not Zeus. Then she takes in Zeus into herself in a cave in Crete, so that Zeus can be raised out of the womb of the earth in addition to being raised out of the womb of his own mother on page 17. She then advises Zeus to free the 100-handers so they can be on his side in the war, page 21, a pivotal tactical maneuver that Zeus makes. Finally, she bears Typhoeus, page 27, in order to struggle against Zeus, to test him, to see if he deserves that power and maybe try to overthrow him. After Zeus defeats Typhoeus, then she jumps on in and advises all the Olympians to accept Zeus as their main power, so they all jump in and do that. She then advises Zeus, yes indeed, to be the one to swallow Metis. So this power of reproduction seems to have been given over willingly by Earth, the female principle, to Zeus, the male principle, as a marker of Zeus's now position of authority as the central figure in the cosmos. So this messy, very messy family tree is something that Hesiod uses to order this whole set of events. He has got what he's been looking for at the beginning. There's order, there's predictability, there's structure in the cosmos, and it's based on Zeus, the powerful male principle.